My husband's ex-wife tried to sabotage our wedding and ended up losing everything. My husband, Mark, and I have been together for 5 wonderful years, married for 6 months. Our story, like many, has its share of twists and turns, mostly courtesy of his ex-wife, Sarah. Their marriage ended 10 years ago, a tumultuous affair that left Mark deeply wounded. They had one daughter, Emily, who is now 16, and the only reason Mark ever maintained contact with Sarah. Sarah was, to put it mildly, a difficult person. Controlling, manipulative, and incredibly self-centered. Mark had endured years of emotional abuse, and when he finally found the courage to leave, she made his life a living hell. She fought him on every single thing during the divorce, dragged his name through the mud, and used Emily as a pawn whenever it suited her. Even after the divorce was finalized, her antics continued. She'd constantly call Mark, invent emergencies, or threaten to withhold Emily just to get a reaction. It was exhausting for him, and frankly, heartbreaking for me to watch. When Mark and I started dating, I knew about Sarah. He was very upfront about his past, his experiences, and the ongoing drama. I admired his honesty and his resilience. I also understood that Emily was his priority, and I respected that. I made it my mission to build a good relationship with Emily, and thankfully, we clicked immediately. She's a sweet, intelligent, and funny young woman, and I genuinely adore her. Sarah, however, saw me as an enemy from day one. She made passive-aggressive comments, spread rumors, and generally tried to make my life miserable. I tried to be the bigger person, to ignore her, but it was a constant battle. Mark, bless his heart, always stood up for me. He set boundaries, confronted her when necessary, and assured me that I was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. The proposal was magical. Mark took me back to the place where we had our first date, a cozy little Italian restaurant. He got down on one knee, and with tears in his eyes, asked me to marry him. I, of course, said yes. We were over the moon, but we both knew that announcing our engagement would unleash the beast that was Sarah. And we were right. The moment we told Emily, who was thrilled for us, she, in turn, told Sarah. The phone calls started almost immediately. Sarah accused Mark of moving on too quickly, of replacing her, of trying to erase their past. She even tried to guilt-trip Emily, telling her that she was betraying her mother by being happy for us. Emily, thankfully, is smarter than her mother gives her credit for. She shut Sarah down, telling her that her father deserved to be happy and that she loved me. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding. We wanted to avoid any unnecessary drama and simply celebrate our love with our closest family and friends. We picked a beautiful outdoor venue, sent out invitations, and started planning the details. Sarah, however, had other plans. She somehow managed to get her hands on an invitation, despite the fact that we had specifically not sent her one. She called Mark, furious, demanding to know why she wasn't invited. Mark calmly explained that it was a private ceremony and that she wasn't part of our immediate family. This, of course, did not go over well. She threatened to show up anyway, to cause a scene, and to tell everyone what a horrible person Mark was. We tried to ignore her, hoping she was just blowing smoke, but a part of us knew she was serious. The week before the wedding was a whirlwind of last-minute preparations. Everything was coming together beautifully. My dress was perfect, the flowers were ordered, the catering was confirmed. We were so excited, so ready to start our new chapter together. Then, 2 days before the wedding, the first incident occurred. My maid of honor, my sister, called me in a panic. She had gone to pick up a special order of artisanal chocolates we were having as wedding favors, only to be told that the order had been cancelled. Not only cancelled, but the person who cancelled it had also badmouthed our event, claiming we were unreliable and had a history of not paying our vendors. My sister was fuming. She explained that she had given a significant deposit, and now we were out of luck and out of money. We called the chocolate shop, and after a lot of explaining and some serious reassurance, they agreed to fast-track our order, but it was a close call. We knew, deep down, who was behind it. The next day, it got worse. The wedding cake. I had spent months designing the perfect cake, a beautiful 3-tiered creation with delicate sugar flowers. The bakery called me, sounding very distressed. They told me that someone had called them, claiming to be me, and had made several changes to the cake order. These changes included a hideous fluorescent green frosting, plastic action figures as toppers, and a message written in edible glitter that read, "Good luck, you'll need it." I was absolutely horrified. I explained that I had made no such changes, and they, bless their hearts, immediately realized what had happened. They were incredibly apologetic and promised to fix the cake, but the stress of it all was overwhelming. This was no longer just annoying. It was a deliberate attempt to ruin our day. Mark and I decided we couldn't let this continue. We knew Sarah was behind these acts of sabotage. It was her modus operandi. We contacted our lawyer, explained the situation, and asked what our options were. Our lawyer advised us to get a restraining order, but he also warned us that it might be difficult to get one so quickly, especially without concrete proof that Sarah was the one making the calls. He suggested we hire a private investigator to gather evidence, but that would take time we didn't have. We were at a loss. We just wanted to get married in peace. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect day. I was getting ready with my bridesmaids, my heart a mixture of excitement and nerves. My hair was being styled, my makeup was being applied, and a sense of calm was finally settling over me. Then, my phone rang. It was the wedding planner, her voice strained with panic. "There's a situation," she explained, that someone had shown up at the venue, claiming to be a distant relative, and had tried to bribe one of the staff members to let them into the ceremony early. The staff member, thankfully, was astute and recognized that something was off. When asked for an invitation, the person became belligerent and started yelling. It was Sarah. Mark, who was getting ready in a separate area, was immediately informed. He was furious but also surprisingly calm. He knew this was coming. He called the venue manager and instructed them to call the police. He wasn't going to let Sarah ruin our day. I, on the other hand, was shaking. My beautiful, perfect wedding day was being threatened, and I felt a surge of anger unlike anything I had ever experienced. The police arrived quickly. Sarah, still causing a scene, was confronted. She tried to claim she was invited, that she was merely a concerned mother, but the evidence against her was mounting. The cancelled chocolate order, the sabotage cake, her earlier threats, it all painted a very clear picture. The venue manager confirmed her disruptive behavior. The police, after hearing all sides, informed Sarah that she was trespassing and creating a public disturbance. They warned her that if she didn't leave immediately, she would be arrested. Sarah, emboldened by a lifetime of getting her way, refused. She started screaming, accusing Mark of being a terrible father and me of being a home wrecker. She even tried to physically push past one of the officers. That's when they arrested her. I didn't see it happen, but my sister, who witnessed the whole thing, described it in vivid detail. Sarah was handcuffed, placed in the back of a police car, and driven away. The entire incident, from the initial phone call to Sarah's arrest, took less than an hour. The shock of it all slowly began to wear off, replaced by a strange sense of relief. It was over. Sarah was gone. The wedding went on as planned. It was beautiful, emotional, and everything I had dreamed of. Mark and I exchanged our vows under a canopy of flowers, surrounded by the people who loved and supported us. Emily gave a beautiful speech, tearing up as she talked about how happy she was for her father and how much she loved having me in her life. It was a perfect day, despite the earlier drama. We found out later that Sarah was charged with trespassing, disturbing the peace, and resisting arrest. She spent the night in jail. The next morning, Mark received a call from her. She was crying, begging him to bail her out, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. Mark, for the first time in years, said no. He told her that he was done, that her actions had consequences, and that he wouldn't enable her anymore. He told her that he was filing for a permanent restraining order and that any future communication would go through his lawyer. He also informed her that he was seeking full custody of Emily, citing her recent behavior as proof of her unstable nature. Sarah's parents, who had always enabled her behavior, were furious with Mark. They called him, berating him, telling him he was being heartless. Mark, however, stood his ground. He explained everything that had happened, how Sarah had tried to ruin our wedding, how she had emotionally manipulated Emily for years. He told them that he was protecting his new family, and if they couldn't see that, then he was prepared to cut ties with them as well. It was a tough conversation, but Mark was resolute. Emily, when she found out about her mother's arrest and Mark's decision to seek full custody, was initially upset. She loved her mother, despite everything, and the idea of not seeing her regularly was difficult. But after talking to Mark and me, and after hearing about her mother's actions, she slowly came around. She admitted that her mother's behavior had been increasingly erratic and that she often felt caught in the middle. She even confided that she was relieved that the drama would finally stop. The legal battle for full custody was lengthy and emotionally draining. Sarah fought us tooth and nail, but in the end, the evidence was overwhelming. The police report from the wedding day, the witness statements from the chocolate shop and the bakery, the countless emails and texts she had sent to Mark, all painting a clear picture of a woman obsessed with control and manipulation. The judge granted Mark full custody of Emily, with supervised visitation for Sarah. The aftermath was profound. Sarah lost everything. Her reputation was in tatters, her relationships with her family strained, and her access to Emily severely limited. She had alienated everyone who had ever cared for her. Mark, on the other hand, found peace. He no longer had to deal with Sarah's constant drama. Emily thrived in our home, finally free from the emotional manipulation. She excelled in school, made new friends, and became a truly confident and happy young woman. As for me, I learned a lot about resilience, about standing up for myself, and about the power of true love. Our wedding day, despite the initial chaos, became a symbol of our strength, our commitment to each other, and our determination to overcome any obstacle. Sarah tried to break us, but in the end, she only made us stronger. Our happily ever after wasn't without its challenges, but it was, and still is, worth every single one. And every now and then, when I look at our wedding photos, I smile, not just at the beautiful memories, but also at the thought of Sarah in the back of that police car, a stark reminder that karma, indeed, is a formidable force.